Welcome to the family posing video. First, we're going to start off with some sibling poses. I have our sibling model today who's 8 years old. Because we don't have a toddler here today, I'm going to use her to show what I would do in the event that any or the only siblings that are at your newborn session are about toddler age, about 5, 6 and under is what I consider this to be my ideal posing for that. For me, it's the safest. It's just really classic looking. The parents love it because it's really up and close. I'm not shooting for a set, so you can get those really close moments. Also allowing you to be within arm's reach of the baby at all times, because toddlers and animals, I just kind of describe them as similar behavior. It's a gamble. You never know what they're going to do. This is my go-to for toddlers every single time. So first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to instruct my sibling. I usually am not holding baby during this if I have a toddler to work with, just to make sure that everyone is safe. Plus, it just allows more one-on-one connection with your toddler because they like to feel special, especially when they're having to share so much time and attention with this new little creature that has come into their family and they don't understand what's happening. So what I'm going to do is instruct my model to sit down to one side. And what I have set up here is I just have a king size pillow. And it's just one, and I just layer lots of blankets on top of it. So go ahead and scooch this way just a little bit. So forward, away from the pillow a little. Yep, there we go. And then I'm gonna have her lean back on the pillow, and as she's doing that, we're gonna get some of her hair up. There we go. And then scooch to this side just a little bit more. Excellent, thank you. Okay, so whenever one of my siblings is a girl and they have longer hair that's not a super short cut style, the way that I like to arrange their hair is I like to lift a little bit whenever they're laying down, but I don't want to make a sundial out of their hair because I just think it looks weird. So I like a little bit coming down on this one side, but most of it is going to be on this outside part of the shot because my light source is coming through the curtains on this side. So I want baby a little bit more in the shadows because babies have more translucent skin. They're going to show up a little bit lighter than someone who has had sun on their complexion. And so I want the light source to be towards the older subjects as much as I can. Once I have her ready and I've messed with as much detail as I can, if it's a toddler, you're not gonna want to waste valuable time that they're actually cooperating and laying there. But when I have an older sibling, I'll pay attention to a little bit more detail. So I usually like to have the hand up like this because this is gonna be the nook. Baby's head's gonna go right here, and then their hand can come over and rest on top of their head for a little cuddle. So I always like to have baby wrapped and prepped for this set, especially because toddlers are not going to guarantee cooperation. I usually like to have them ready to go before I set them there. So we're going to place her tushy down on the lowest part and really get her, I usually use the hand on the bottom to just really butt them up against their body, and then have their hand come over the top of their head and place right at the top. It's a little bit supportive, but plus, like any new sibling, loves that extra little snuggle opportunity. Especially if at this point they haven't gotten to hold baby very much yet, then they just love feeling special that they're getting to hold baby all on their own and just have that cute little snuggle moment. So now I'm going to take the hand across from here, and I usually like to place over the top of baby. If it's a young enough sibling or they just have T-Rex arms, then instead of getting them to just reach, I either just let them place their hand on their chest, or you can get them to turn their hips. So take this leg and just swing it over. You can get them to turn their hips and then get part of the lower half of their body a little bit more on their side. That allows their arm to come over even further. Mess with her hair a little bit more. And then now, because there's a lot of separation from baby's head to the sibling's head, we're going to take the top of their head and tilt it in towards baby. And if the hair does something funky, you can always just tuck it. No one will ever know. But we're gonna tilt the top of their head towards baby, but still keep their nose up towards the sky. So once I'm ready to shoot, I essentially straddle the kiddos that are between me. Unless you have like 3 or 4, I want my legs to be on both sides of them so that they're right in the middle of where I am. Once I'm ready to shoot, I'm going to make sure that the sibling's head is tilted enough, because usually by the time I get into this position, they just either relax and fall out of how I place them, or, you know, let's face it, just kids just don't be still. So I'm gonna just take one last look and make sure everything is set. And then the way that I'm gonna crop it is I want a little bit of space above their head and then down to the bottom line of the arm right here. It's rare that I go down further unless I'm going to try and shoot this as a composite where I can get a full body and then grab pieces of my background on both sides. Most of the time, I just keep these cropped in pretty tight. Whenever you have older siblings, it can be a lot more fun because you don't feel like you're hurting cats, but you just get a lot more variety with the way that you compose them. Now that I have a full lifestyle set, I'm really excited to be able to have lots more variety to a lot of my sibling poses. So in this case, what I'm gonna do is take my bench from the end of my bed, and I'm gonna put it in front of my curtain where I have my light source on the opposite side, so I can get some of her sitting on the bench and holding baby, but also get some backlit shots as well. So first we're gonna start off with the backlit ones. So I'm gonna have you slide your hiney over here, and then you're gonna put your feet up on the bench. So you have to pay attention because everybody's core strength is different, especially with kids, no matter what their age. So they're going to end up with that like really harsh like curvature at the spine, and then whenever you bring their knees up a little bit just to help support baby, it makes it really hard for them to keep an engaged core. So make sure that you're never, no matter what their age, that you're never walking away from them entirely once the baby's in their hands. Even if you feel like you can trust them, it's just more about physical capabilities and them just getting tired really fast. Before I put the baby in the siblings' hands, I like to make sure everything is ready. So I like to shoot my backlit shots with an aperture around 2.8 or 3.2 just to prevent getting like a really hazy picture. So in that case, I'm also going to want to bump up my ISO just a little bit more, which is always going to vary. I usually will have it around 500, but I always want to double check and make sure that that's going to be right for this specific scenario. Once we're ready, I'm going to place the baby's bottom towards their tummy and then have the head up on the knees. That way your older siblings' arms aren't getting exhausted by just holding all the weight just with their arms. The knees being pulled up is also because I want it to be supportive, but also gain the angles that I want. I don't ever want the baby's head to be completely flat in their lap because that just creates a lot of disconnect from your sibling to the baby. So I always want, if there's hair, I always want to tuck it on the side that's closest to the curtain because I want a really nice seamless line with facial features. So once we're ready for that, then I'm going to keep my hand on their back at all times just to help them until I'm ready to shoot, just to add a little bit of extra support. You'd be surprised how much just that little bit will make the biggest difference in their strength. Okay, are you ready? Are you feeling okay? All right, so my arm is always within reach. I don't usually like to shoot this as a wide shot unless I'm going to have dad standing nearby. So whenever I have a spotter standing nearby, then I can jump back on the bed and get a full body shot. If they're doing okay, I'm going to communicate with them the whole time and see how they're doing. She seems to be doing excellent because she's got a really strong core. So I'm going to actually see if we can encourage her to get her hands behind baby's head, put one down on her back and one behind her head. And then that way I can get her to lift baby up a little bit more towards her. And then that way you can encourage like giving them a little kiss on the cheek or on the nose, or just Eskimo kisses. Kids love when you ask them to do that. So there's lots of varieties that you can do for this. In this specific scenario, I just want baby's face to be a little bit closer to her. So I'm going to just ask her to just elevate baby a little bit more towards her. Ready? And then you can come forward. 1, 2, 3 together. Are you doing okay? Is that okay for you? All right. And then sit up with your back nice and straight if you can. And then I also like to get this angle of them just being in big sister's lap. And it's just cute with the embrace around them. So what I'm gonna do just to open up her face a little bit more is have her tilt the top of her head towards my light source. And what that does is it just allows me to get, even though it's out of focus, a little bit more of her face in there instead of just hair. So I'm gonna shoot from above just to get that full face of just baby. You can also come in over the top and get just the baby's face in siblings' hands. So cute. Excellent. It's always just important to communicate with your clients at all times, no matter if they're a kid or an adult. I always like to give them a narrative and a play-by-play of what I'm doing, just so that they know what to expect from me, since most of the time it's their first time ever holding any of these poses. Okay, thank you. High five. One pose that I really like to do, the backlit pose is something that I just kind of like to do as a bonus, but backlit photos are some of my favorites, so I really wanted to be able to show that to you guys. One of the best ones that I like to do so you get nice even light is I'm gonna have the kiddos, especially when you have more than one, because the backlit is hard to do if you have more than one older sister or brother. So I like to have them on the bed and then scooch back, which if you're shooting this on seamless paper, this is an excellent pose you can do. It's all the posing is identical. It's just your placement and what the background looks like is the only thing that's different. So I like to have lots of pillows. I like shooting this on a lifestyle set because the pillows add more support. If you're on seamless paper, they get zero support. So you want to communicate with them more frequently just to make sure that they're not getting fatigued in their core area. So we're gonna get her situated. She has a pretty strong part, so I always like to start with tucking hair and make sure hair is behind shoulders until I'm ready to go. Whenever you hand baby to the siblings though, you also have to be mindful of your light source. So my light is coming from her left side, so I don't want to pose baby to where baby's head is on her right side, because then my light is just going up the nostrils and it's not flattering lighting on the baby's face. I always have to pay attention to that before I decide where to put baby. So I am just going to let her relax in her arm. The arm of your sibling is going to be what's supportive on the head. Should you have a toddler, then I actually do a lot more of a supportive wrap style where I have an extra layer so that it supports baby's core so that they're not as pliable in their body area. And then that way, if it's a younger sibling, it's actually easier on their arms if you have baby tilted upright like this. So if you have them tilted upright like this and the baby's chin is tucking too much towards their chest, you want to be careful of that because that does collapse their airway more and it makes it a lot more difficult for your baby to breathe. So what you can do is you can take the tail of your wrap, or you can also have some swaddles on standby and just tuck them and add a spacer here just to bump baby's body out to allow their head to shift back a little bit more. So in this case, what I'm going to do from having an older sibling is my variation of this pose is going to be with her hand here. Put your elbow down. Excellent. And her hand is going to support the back of her head along with her chest. So your arm is actually going to come more on the side of her head here. Beautiful. And then this hand up here in the front just helps support the front of the body so that baby doesn't continue to slide down her crisscross pose here. You can also have them hold right here. Just different variations. Both are just equally supportive. Okay, so go ahead and sit really still for me. In this case, I always end up standing on the bed. Anytime I have any child holding a baby, I always want to be within arm's reach the whole time, even if I fully trust that child. So in this case, I'm going to do a little bit of a closer shot, kind of adjust, and then why don't you, because you're relaxing back against the pillows, so go ahead and sit up straight for me. Excellent. Okay. Beautiful. And then these ones I usually like shooting at a portrait orientation. 1, 2, 3, smile. 1, 2, 3, smile. 1, 2, 3, smile. Very good. And then just looking down at baby. So whenever I have people looking down, usually when the subject is so close, they tuck their chin really far, I actually lose their face. So what I look for is a separation from the tip of the nose to the top of the lip. So what I do after they look down is say, continue looking down, but bring your chin up a little bit. So go ahead and lift your chin a little bit more. Perfect. And as soon as I see that separation, that's the exact spot that I want their head tilted. It kind of gives the illusion they're looking at baby, but in fact, they're probably not able to look down far enough that they're probably looking at their knees or the floor in front of them. And in this shot, I'm gonna grab focus on the baby's eyes and put the focal point of the whole image on that while the sibling is looking down at them. You can vary this by tilting back into the arm and just doing a cradle. You want to be sure that when they're holding them in cradle position that the head isn't tilting backwards and you're shooting up the nostrils. So this is another one where I will usually have the parent as a spotter off to the side so that I can be further back and shoot more for this set. So we're gonna invite mom to come stand over here. Okay, so when I have them in this cradle position, the angle of the baby I'm gonna be mindful of is whether or not I'm gonna be shooting from above, which if I am, I'm gonna be standing on the shadow side of this position. She wants her head, she's kind of a noodle. So lift your arm a little bit and that actually gets her head to be in the position that I want. Are you doing okay? Is your tummy okay? Okay, so with my parent spotting off to the side, that allows me to scoot back even more and then shoot more for this set to start off with my wide one first. And this girl is very camera conditioned, so I actually don't have to do a lot of coaching with her. She's done many, many pictures before. So she's just looking and smiling at me, looking and smiling at baby, just going back and forth. Go ahead and look at the little bows on the top of her head. That's very cute. When you instruct them to look at like the headband or their hair, that actually encourages them to turn their head at a good angle to where they're not turning away and tucking their head away from the camera. If you want to open their face even more, you just ask them to tilt the top of their head towards their shoulder. So go ahead and sit up with your torso straight again. So, yep, you're leaning towards the direction your head is turning, which is really common. People, the direction that they're looking, they always end up falling into that position. So sometimes you just need a quick little reset and then look at her headband. Turn and look at her headband for me. And then now take the top of your head and tilt it towards your left shoulder. So the top of your head and tilt. I'm gonna do just that. Beautiful. And then what that does is allows me to shoot from overhead, and we're gonna tilt baby a little bit more to be face up towards me now. Excellent, are you doing okay? All right, now top of your head, tilt some more. Another pose that you could do is with your kiddos laying on their tummy and having the baby more towards the front of the bed. This is a great variation for toddlers if you don't want to do the ones of them laying on the floor. You can have baby wrapped towards the foot of your bed, more on their side so that the baby is rolled up onto their side facing towards you, and then the toddler just gets to lay on their tummy behind them. They don't even have to hold the baby at all. They could sit there with their hands on their face. They could cradle their arms around the baby. It's just a great one to also line up if you have multiple siblings. We're not gonna take the time to go through an additional sibling pose because we've already done a few and we wanna skip straight to all the family stuff. So now we're going to do a family pose that works for even a lifestyle set or even on your seamless paper. So it's the same identical posing, either setup that you're using, same placement with the light. The only difference is the background clearly looks different, but then also like I don't have the faux window curtains here, but you can see that my light source is at a specific angle. It's usually about a 45-degree angle to where I'm gonna have my subject. So it's the same exact placement as if I was shooting on seamless paper. So first, I always start with the matriarch. I typically love to have mom holding baby as the primary focal point in this picture because one, she just got all dolled up. It's probably the best she's felt in weeks. And then also I just like the look of the dad just having that supportive embrace around mom and baby. So I'm going to start off with having my mom come forward. Okay, and so this is going to be a little bit of an awkward feeling because you won't naturally hold your baby this way. I'm gonna actually have you come out this way. Okay, so I'm gonna have your right arm is gonna go up and across your chest. So I'm gonna open you up this way just a little bit more. Very good. Okay, so when I go to place baby here, don't move your hand to find her. I want to place her exactly right here. Before I remove my hands, you're gonna take your left arm and come up and support the bottom of her. Here we go. So we're gonna place baby up pretty high, like pretty close to where mom's collarbone is at. Once you get baby placed there, then we're gonna take this hand, and I actually don't go under, especially if you have a really chunky baby. The higher you bring mom's hand over the top of this curve, it actually gives the illusion that it's a smaller baby because usually mom's arms aren't as long as a dad's arms. So when you have like a 9, 10-pound baby and a really petite mom, then it just looks like she's holding like a massive little baby giant. So that gives the illusion the baby looks a little smaller. If you have a really tiny baby, bring mom's hand even further down around that curve, and then it makes it look a little bit more proportional, like mom's arms aren't swallowing the baby. So I'm gonna place her a little bit here because the way I have her wrapped is kind of on the bulkier side. And then, how are you doing? Your arms okay? So just let me know when your arms start to feel tired, and then we can stop. I'm gonna have dad come in. So the way that I place dad in my shot, I usually look for the center of where their sternum is to mom's shoulder. So go ahead and take your sternum and make that placement angled out this way. So you're gonna take this half and go behind her. Very good. And then come and press right up against her. This arm, I like to usually come up and be supported from underneath. If dad has really long arms, then you can actually have his arms come up and above. I don't typically go with that one just because, like, whenever you get his arm placed there, as soon as he relaxes, it has a tendency to pull down on mom's upper arm just from the weight of his arm. So it can make it a little bit more exhausting for the mom to hold the baby in an already awkward position. So I like coming up from underneath. Now we're gonna take your arm from behind and just come around her waist right here. Again, if dad has really long arms and he's literally like coming across the front of her body, then I might have his arm go up and over, so that way his hand will connect to mom's hand up here. But every family is different, so it's like putting new puzzle pieces together. So just look for those kinds of details. Even if he was like a 6'7" man and had like really long arms, I might still go with this pose. It's just depending on the scenario and what I think is gonna be aesthetically pleasing in my overall image. So now we're gonna take our sibling and pop her in here. And as you see, her head height is a little bit shorter. So what I'm gonna do is have her pop back out. I'm gonna take some kind of a lifter and put it down because we're not shooting all the way down to the ground for this. This is gonna be that tight classic shot where you really want everybody looking and smiling at the camera. I always start off with that one, especially when you have toddlers. I always do my safety shots first. You're less likely to get cooperation from a sibling to be still smile and look at you when they're a toddler after they've already been shooting for 30 minutes to an hour. So you're gonna scooch in a little bit closer. You're gonna take that arm and go across her back. And then you're gonna take this hand and put it right here. Okay, and then whenever I shoot this shot, how are your arms doing? Oh, good. Okay, good. So the last thing that I do is I'm gonna tilt heads. So sibling's head is elevated up, tiny bit tilted towards mom, chin up a little bit, tiny bit tilted towards your husband, and then I'll situate her hair once I get her head tilted. Okay, and then you're gonna kind of, I always tell the dads this, I'm like, make like a turtle. So because I have him behind her, I still want his head on the same like depth of field as I have everyone else. So I always have the dads stretch their neck out, and then I'm gonna have him just a smidge elevate, and then the top of his head tilt towards her. What that does is that just creates like a really nice connection, because now, even if you don't have a sibling and you just have them, you have a really nice connection between all of them here. You also have the baby with the lighting going down her nose. So you have this to where dad can reach in and get a little smooch on baby. Adding a sibling in here with her head tilted this way, you have this really nice, beautiful circle that you could draw with an invisible line. So everybody ready? So I always use a stepladder whenever I'm shooting family shots. I like to shoot down. I've probably said this like 100 times if you've watched all of my videos. I like to shoot a lot of things at a 45-degree angle. So I want to come up a little bit higher on my ladder. And now at this point, I can see I don't have dad's head elevated enough. He's using his eyebrows to pull his head up. So I'm gonna have him start with his chin. So I say lift your chin instead of tilt your head. If you lift your chin, they relax their forehead naturally. And then now I have my sibling go ahead and turn out this way, just other way. Yep, very good. Okay, and everybody, it looks amazing. Okay, you guys ready? 1, 2, 3, smile. 1, 2, 3, smile. Beautiful. A quick variation without having to change anybody's position at all is kind of my favorite. I rarely choose for myself a smiling, looking at the camera kind of picture. So I like the cuddly ones. I like when everybody's eyes are looking away or at someone else. So I'm just gonna have the sibling tilt your head on top of the baby, and then mom and dad bring a connection together with your heads even more. And then I'm gonna have you swoop your head this way just a little bit. So turn back to your left just a little bit more. There we go. And then Go ahead and close your eyes. Turn to your left a little bit more towards your husband. Beautiful. And then Quentin, bring your head in a little bit further. Yes, perfect. So I like to bring Dad's forehead in a little bit further to where there's almost like a connection between her eyebrow and his eyebrow. So that's what I look for. And then go ahead and lift your chin up a little bit more. So my focal point, and then eyes down. My focal point is actually going to be on the baby's eye. Kiss on the head. She smiled. So to take the baby from mom, I always let them know I'm gonna take them, my hand from behind, and then I'm gonna roll them towards me. If you don't let them know that's what you're doing, then it gives them the sensation that baby is falling out of their arms. So we're gonna take her, roll her towards me, and then you've got a nice grip on baby. I always use my thumb and my pointer finger, almost like handlebars. It just gives me really good head control to make sure that when I'm transitioning from one person to the next or from me to a prop, that's got a really secure grip on their head to make sure that they're safe. So whenever you're doing a lifestyle set, I usually like something that's just more of a relaxed looking outfit. I don't prefer to have them wrapped the whole time. If you have a baby that's really gassy or fussy, it does help if you do have them wrapped the whole time. She's pretty easygoing. She is getting to be a little bit more alert because she's been sleeping for quite a while. But again, she still looks pretty relaxed, so we're gonna go with just an outfit for these sets. For the bed, one of my favorite go-tos for every family is I always like to have Dad kind of sideways sit on the bed, and I just have one foot on the ground and then one knee up. And I like to get him placed first because he's your target. Once you have Dad positioned here, then you can have mom approach the bed from the other side and then come sit across here because I want her up against him as tight as I can get. So go ahead and have you sit down and mimic that. And so you're gonna sit side saddle essentially, and then go ahead and pivot your hips a little to where your knee is pointing more towards the end of the, yep, and that allows her to get really up and close so that their hips are side by side and her legs are pressed up against his. What I can do, especially if you have a mom who's had a cesarean, you're obviously going to want to modify your posing if she's had stitches. I've had it vary a lot from one cesarean mom to the next on what their capabilities are. I never allow them to get off the bed or off the floor without me or the dad assisting them. Even if they say they're fine, it's just still not ideal because you do have to use your core. That's never a good idea for them. In this pose, what I can do is if her core is a little bit stressed from sitting in a position where she has to use her lumbar to hold her back propped up really well, then I can actually have her lean into him. So go ahead and take your arm behind her back, and she can relax her elbow onto his leg right here. And then that just allows a little bit extra support, plus this part of her shoulder is able to rest against his chest. So once we're ready, I'm going to do a really relaxed pose with the baby. I don't get super fussy and technical about the way that the baby's posing these, as long as her face has good lighting and as long as they're not yelling at me. So while I'm over here, if she's in a dress, I like to fidget with that just a little bit just to make it look nice in the pictures before I even get baby placed. And then from here, I'll kneel on the bed just with one leg. I don't need to completely get on the bed and have a party with them, but I'm going to have baby's head rested here. So in this case, I'm gonna take the swaddle and place this down. Go ahead and remove this hand, pull it out. And then that way, once I get baby down there, we can just kind of have it tucked around her just a little. And then this hand can go right here. There we go. And then take the top of your head and tilt it towards him. And if mom has hair that's falling down into her face, then you can tuck it. I also like to keep bobby pins on hand because you can actually hide it to make it stay out of the way, but also not look like it's tucked behind her ear. So baby looks amazing. Dad, go ahead and take this hand and we're just going to grasp a little bit more. Once I have them in position, again, I always like to start with my widest shots first. That way I can keep going in closer and closer, and then because I'm closer and within arm's reach, then I can do a little bit of variations with my posing. So once I get back here, I usually wait until the very last minute because of the position that I have Dad in, it makes it hard to engage his core and arch his lumbar the whole time and hold it. So I always let them sit relaxed until I'm ready for my shot. Even wait until after I do my exposure test. I also, because because of my set. And I also have so many diffusers. I have 2 diffusers on my light. The curtains act as a really thick diffuser, so it dulls my light a lot. It creates some really deep shadows on this side of them. So I always pop a reflector in there, but that's just because of my personal preference. It looks amazing with or without. So once I'm ready to shoot, I've got my aperture at 4.5, my ISO at 2000. My light is bumped up from the lowest power to about a 128. So once I'm ready to shoot, I'm gonna have Dad arch your lumbar for me, really pop up that chest nice and straight. Beautiful. And then, yep, keep looking down at your little girl. Oh, she looks so cute. And then I just like to encourage a little bit of connection between them. And so I just have them sit there and just take in all her details. Look at how cute her little nose is, because look at those smiles. When I start talking about those things, I get some really amazing natural smiles from them. Once I've got my shot from far away, I also like to come in closer on my ladder first before I even get any closer. And then foreheads together for me. Beautiful. Just use your hand to just slightly, yes, beautiful. Oh, gorgeous. What that does is it actually gives a really natural look, but I really did need her hair moved out of her face. So, yep, there we go. Beautiful. As I get in closer, I like to shoot more and more and above, because I've already shown what it looks like from this angle from shooting straight at them, that without moving them, you can create so many variety with this same exact scenario. So I'm gonna go ahead and have your hand back on her head, and then India, I'm gonna have you lift up your chin, tilt it towards Quentin's head, and then Quentin, go ahead and arch lumbar, and then connect your head with hers. Beautiful, just right there, you guys. And then as I have them there, I'm just gonna keep getting closer and closer. I'm gonna get a close-up of just their arms embraced around their little one. And then I'm gonna swing around and shoot from behind. So because I'm shooting from such a strong angle here, I wanna open up her face a little more, so I will let her know. I'm gonna go ahead and tuck your hair for you. Some people are really weird about being touched, so I normally let them know ahead of time and ask permission, but I know she's comfortable with that. So Quentin, go ahead and lift your chin a little bit more. There we go. That's beautiful, you guys. Super cute. Okay, so I'm actually going to have your arm go down just a little bit more. I want to open her face up to the light more. So if baby's head, top of their head, is shielding light from their face, you can have mom's arm, instead of behind her head or her neck, you can have it go behind her shoulders, and see how much that elevates her face and opens it up to the light. Because of the direction that I'm shooting, I want a lot more light just focused on baby's face. That's perfect. Oh. So I have these footstools here placed specifically to have some really good variation in my lifestyle posing. So I usually like to have Dad sit on the end of the bed with one knee here, because this can kind of be supportive for him. If their legs are really long, you can take the stool down a notch, or you can scoot it over and just let his feet just be on the floor right here. So I'm gonna go ahead and have him sit down, and then we're gonna place mom right in his little nook here. So come a little bit more forward to the edge of that corner. Very good. Now that I've got them in position, I'm actually gonna have you be more on this side of her body. So if it helps, we can actually swing your knees this way just a little bit more. And what that does is you can see that just by having her swing her knees made the rest of her body just follow direction. So by turning her knees this way, that actually angled the top of her shoulders into his chest on the side that I want to focus on more anyways, without having to tell her to just rotate. What happens when you have people just rotate, it works in a pinch. If you already have everyone posed, it does work really well. However, if you're gonna be shooting lots of angles and you're gonna have them in that position for a little longer, whatever direction people's toes are pointed, the rest of your body naturally falls into. So because her feet are on the floor, the next part of that would be actually her knees. So whatever her knees are pointed towards is the way that her body's naturally just gonna fall back into that same direction. So to help her hold it, I moved her knees first instead of just making her twist her upper body. So this is gonna be another similar pose with baby, but it gives a completely different look in the whole image because of changing the parent's positioning. So we're gonna put her back in mom's arms again. I'm gonna make sure I've got some of my texture popping up in here, which is why I usually put the swaddle down first. And for this one, I actually want to make it look a little bit more swaddled. So what I'm gonna do while she's already placed here is I'm gonna find the rest of my swaddle and just try to wrap it around her just a little bit more. I'm gonna crisscross her legs. She might not keep them there, but that's fine. This is a lot harder to do loose swaddles in your arms, so that's why I always wait until I've already got them placed in mommy's arms. And as far as my aperture with lifestyle sets, I know I say I like 4.0 to 4.5. I also like to play around with it too. When I'm wanting a picture where everybody's smiling looking at me, I definitely want an appropriate aperture to where I'm getting everybody's faces in focus. When I have more in the moment type shots, I actually want a more shallow depth of field. So I like to kick it down to like 2.8 or 3.2. I don't want it to be so strong that a lot of everything is out of focus, but I definitely want to bring more of the focus onto the baby, because that's the whole point of these pictures, is to capture this moment of their birth and just make them the focal point of the whole entire session. Chin up a little bit, Dad. So sweet. So go ahead and give her another kiss up more by her temple. And the reason why I'm asking him to do that is, as you can see with his kiss on her cheek, his head is blocking all the light off of her face right here, asking him to move to the temple. Look at all that beautiful light that comes across her face. Tell her you'll do the dishes. Prompts are really important. I don't have a list of specific ones. Honestly, I wish I was more witty to come up with better ones on the spot. So a lot of my go-tos, especially whenever you're trying to invoke a connection and emotion between people, is if you just kind of sound stupid or silly. So the dads always need a lot of coaxing. Not him, he's actually really good. But I've had some dads that get really awkward and stiff and kind of like, I don't know what to do. And so the more that you joke around with them, the more you'll see they start to relax. I've had to meow at dads before. As soon as they laugh, you get such a great genuine smile, and it just turns out to be an awesome, real image of their expression and who they are in that image. During the kissing shot, whenever I just wanted a really soft, like beautiful, simple one, but then I also wanted some really good laughing ones because she has such a gorgeous laughing smile. So asking him to whisper something in her ear, sometimes you can tell that they're really uncomfortable in front of the camera if you just throw them off by saying, whisper something naughty. I don't hear what it is, so it doesn't matter, but they both laugh like this. Otherwise, you can just, like, if you can tell that they're still kind of needing a little bit more warm up, then I usually will give them things to say, like I just said, oh, tell her you'll do the dishes, and everybody always thinks that's funny. So just kind of come up with some different things. Just read your people. What works for one might not work for the next, but having things like that already kind of in your little memory bank to think of just to encourage more emotion between people is how you get those really emotive, beautiful pictures where it's moments captured instead of me telling them every single pose and angle and every single thing to do and what to do with their face. I just want to capture who they are together. Again, with the placement that I had when I started off with the group family one, once I'm done with most of my family arrangements, then I like to kind of break it down and just do individual parent posing, because most of the posing I have mom holding baby. I always like to give her a little break and then start with dad first. So because I have her in an outfit, the posing is going to be a little bit more technical than if she's in a wrap, and I did this on purpose because it's pretty easy peasy the way that I pose her if she's in a wrap. It's a lot of the same technique, but a little bit extra technique if they're not in a wrap. So go ahead and face your chest square towards me. Excellent. And so I have them angled this way because of the angle of my light. I have my light kind of going at a 45-degree angle towards my set. And so I want it to kind of come across him as well. Take your right hand and X across your chest. Open up your palm. And again, when I go to place her, don't move your hand to find her. She will be there. I like to pre-pose their legs a little bit when they're in an outfit. So I like to do crisscross. The rest of my fingers are behind their tush. This one is holding the legs in place. It allows me to transfer her more securely, but it also just gets her accustomed to that pose so that as soon as I place her, I'm not doing a bunch of stuff all at once with her. I'm gonna go ahead and place her here, move the beard. There we go. Okay, bring that hand up behind. And then now that she's wiggling again, I'm gonna wait to release my hand until she settles a little bit more. There we go. I don't want her face straight out because on these poses, The technical ones, I'm always on a ladder shooting downwards towards them. So if I'm shooting down this way, it actually gives the illusion that baby's about to fall out of their arms. So if you have their head tilted up a little bit more, that actually gets baby's face pointed straight up to the camera and it looks really nice. So I'm gonna take his hands right here, and go a little bit more behind her tush. This thumb right here, we can relax a little bit, but it's actually helping hold her legs there. I always think it's cute if you just let their arm dangle. I actually don't fuss about a lot of those details. I know some photographers like everything to be just so. Me, I don't really care as much. I mean, obviously if it looks weird, then I'm gonna adjust it, but I kind of like how she's just relaxing her arm, and it might even fall across his arm so that they're together and it'd look really cute. Once I have them posed and ready to go, I get up on my ladder and then I just do one final check to see where my frame is gonna be, my composition, if baby's face is gonna be lit well enough. Everything looks perfect, so now I'm gonna have dad elevate with his chin up towards me. Yeah, I see you did that. Chin even more, relax your forehead. Top of your head, tilt towards your left shoulder. Very good. And then chin up a little bit more. And then just turn your nose this way a little bit more. Beautiful. Chin up even more. Relax your shoulders, which sounds weird, but when everybody is holding this pose, they always have this shrug because they're just, it's awkward. So everybody just tenses up. So the last thing I do is have them relax their shoulders, and that just makes it look a little bit softer across his shoulders. 1, 2, 3. Little bigger smile. There we go. And sometimes you have to talk to dads in your toddler voice because they actually think that you sound ridiculous, so they'll smile. So the reason why I keep asking him to elevate his chin more is because, like I described earlier with the sibling, I want that separation from nose to the top of the mouth, but also with dads, they have really strong eyebrow like bones. And so I want to look for a separation from the top of their iris to the eyebrow. I don't want iris to go straight into eyebrow because it makes them look angry even if they're smiling. So go ahead and chin up a little bit more. Very good. And then looking down at her, but keep the top of your head tilted towards your left shoulder. Awesome. Use your hand where her head is at, and you're going to meet in the middle with your face to her head. So you're going to pull her towards you, chin up a little bit, tilt towards your left shoulder even more. And I want that actual physical connection of his face to her head. What I like to do, because dad's arms are usually stronger, they can hold this pose a little bit longer than mom's, is to maximize shooting. I'll invite mom back into this one. Whether they have other siblings or not, or this is their first baby, what I'm gonna have mom do is come on this side of dad, and I just ask her to put her arms around him, really similar to what we did before. So I'm gonna have the center of your sternum. Yep, so it's almost the same pose that we started off with, but now we're just switching it up, and then she's smiling. Okay, and then top of your head tilted towards her, and then I'm gonna have you just come in a little bit closer. Yeah, beautiful. And then turn your face into them just a little bit more. Perfect. And then mom, can you give her a little kiss on the top of her head? One last parent variation with them together that is one of my most favorites is with the baby propped up over the mom's shoulder. So we're gonna do that one real quick if she lets us. I'm gonna roll her towards me, and then you're gonna face towards my light. So if they don't let me, just already facing forward, start to pre-pose them. Baby being up over mom's shoulder, her left arm is gonna be facing outward. So that's the hand that I'm gonna bring up and across her cheek like this. It's probably ideal to start with her head on my right arm because then I don't have to switch like that. But as you can see, I kind of already have her pre-posed in my hands now, almost in the same position she's gonna be on mom's shoulder. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to have her placed right here. So essentially her face isn't gonna be up and over all the way, but she's gonna be right where the start of mom's shoulder curve is. And then once I place her here, my hands are still on her. Now I'm gonna have mom's right arm come up under her tush, and then I'm gonna have mom's left arm come up over her back, and then mom can start replacing my padding. This one is really cute even if they're naked or even if they're in a wrap that allows you to get their arm up under their face like this. I need to get it up a little bit more, so I'm gonna open up her cheek and then just use this hand to push in her hand. And then now I'm gonna have mom tilt her head towards her right shoulder, just a little bit like this, and then we're gonna invite dad back into the picture. Wonderful. And then I want your hand here. Awesome. And then you're just gonna be looking down at the top of her head. So you might have to come this way just a little bit more. There we go. Oh my gosh, it's so cute. Okay, so because my ladder is already close, I know I always like to start wide, but I'm just gonna start here really close to them. I'm gonna have you guys just looking down. And then Quentin, go ahead and take the top of your head and just a smidge tilt towards her, India's head, yes. Play with your angles. You can get a lot of really good angles on this one. You can go portrait orientation, landscape orientation. One more kiss for me. Oh. So this is another reason why I have mom's hand on her back and also below her, because you could see that she pulled herself out of position, but she is in no way about to fall out of mom's arms because she has her secured in both places. So all you have to do if you didn't get your shots is just have her keep holding right there while you use one hand under palm, the other one under baby's head, and just elevate her back up towards mom's shoulder. But we already got all our shots, so we're good. Basically identical posing with mom as I did with dad. So you're gonna have hand elevated up here across the chest, and then we're gonna place her in mom's hand first while I'm still holding the bottom part, and then we're gonna have mom come up and hold the feet. Oh. And it's crazy how, like, even if their arms are the same length, everybody's body compositions are so different. So even though I'm having her hold her the same way as dad, it still looks a lot different to me. So I don't mind in a gallery if I have the same position, mom holding baby the same way as dad. It doesn't look cookie cutter to me because it fits her differently than it fits him. And then take your chin towards your right just a little bit. Beautiful. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Beautiful. And then just tilt your head in towards her just a little bit more. Beautiful. I actually changed my angles a lot with this pose because it just gives me a little bit different lighting in the overall picture, and it makes baby's face a little bit flatter to me. And then I'm gonna lean towards my right whenever I want mommy to look up at me. So go ahead and just elevate your chin a little bit more. 1, 2, 3, beautiful. And then really good smile. There we go. And then go ahead and turn in and give her a little kiss on the side of her head. And then you can just relax your kiss, but keep your face in there and just give her some good sniffs. And then what I'm gonna do is now I'm gonna actually have her turn her shoulders a little bit more away from the lighting, and this gives me an entirely different look, all with the same pose. Beautiful. Through your nose and slowly exhale through your mouth. That allows her shoulders to just really relax and just sink into that pose with her while she's snuggling. Another variation of a lifestyle set is utilizing all these pillows as your prop posers. So I like to have mom in the front because, let's face it, like when it comes to photography, I always make the woman the focal point and the men are accessories. So I want her in the front, but also just because it gives that like storytelling look when you see the image of baby, mom swaddling baby, and then dad of the overall embrace because he's the protector. So that's really why I actually pose with mom in the front most of the time. So I am not going to be super technical about the way baby's posed here. I'm using this pillow to actually elevate her. So once I'm ready to get detailed with mom, then I can place her arm to just cradle around baby. I have her to where her hip is at the base of the pillows, and then mom is using most of the pillows to kind of elevate her so that she's not laying super horizontal. And so she's actually going to bring your elbow a little bit more forward. And then I might actually have you scooch down just a smidge. There we go. Because I really want you to get nice and cuddled in here with her. Put the arm underneath your hair. The dads, I always have more propped up on their elbow instead of laying down on their elbow. They're more propped up like this. So that's how I'm able to get him up and over the girls. And then you're gonna bring that leg over the top. Yep, because that's really going to get you like nice and closed in on them. The angle that I'm going to be shooting at is always from this direction. So that's what I'm overall aiming for whenever I'm looking at the whole picture as I'm posing them. So from this angle, I actually have the little one to where she's kind of getting swallowed by this nice fuzzy pillow. So I can actually tuck it underneath and just push it underneath just to open her up a little bit more. And then go ahead and lift your arm, Mama. I'm going to actually use the blanket to just kind of swaddle her in here quite a bit. And then this hand, you're gonna go to support underneath. Yes. Beautiful. And I actually like his hand on her leg instead of up against her arm. And then what I'm gonna have you do is just kind of lean in this way a little bit more. And then, yep, Beautiful. And then you're gonna have your head tilted more towards her. So when you're doing this pose, I like to shoot from above, but then if I can get in position just right, I also like to shoot from the side as well. So I'm gonna start with my above because that's my favorite angle of this one. Okay, so Quentin, take the top of your head and tilt it towards her more, and then just kind of lower yourself to be a little bit closer to her, and then top of your head tilt it even more. And then pull it back just a smidge. Perfect, right there. Gorgeous. So when I'm shooting the overhead angle, I'm looking for the bottom of her hand where it scoops under baby for the bottom of my frame, and then just above the top of their heads. You can also change it to a portrait orientation to go down, like cropping into the back of his head, and then all the way down to where the bottom of your frame in portrait orientation again is at the base of her hand. So now I'm gonna change my angle and shoot it from this position to maximize this pose that I already have them in. So now that I'm gonna be shooting from this angle, I am curling her in to bring her face to connect a little bit more with baby. The way you can do that is you can actually have not just from here up, I had her curl forward, but then I also had her head move more forward onto her elbow. And then I pulled some hair forward just to hide that elbow, because from this angle, whatever's closest to the camera always appears biggest. So if I shot from this angle with her elbow being visible, it would just make it look like a really large part of her body. And then because it's bent, then at first you're like, well, what is that? Where is that coming from? So I always like to just hide it so that it's flattering. And then now I'm gonna have Dad lean in even closer. Yes. And then top of your head tilt towards her, chin up for me. Yep. And then I want a little bit more connection, so I'm gonna have him bring his arm down and just holding his girls here. And then with the baby's head tilted back like that, it's a little too far of a tilt, so I'm just gonna grab from the back of her head and then just lift a little, tuck some of the swaddle, and then turn her a little bit more towards me. Oh, I love that one. Okay, so that wraps up all the family posing videos. I showed a lot of variety on how I pose my clients whenever I'm gonna be shooting against seamless, even though we didn't actually place them in front of a seamless backdrop. It's all the same identical posing. I still often like to use that same posing for my lifestyle sets just to get those closer, more classic shots of everybody smiling and looking at the camera. We also covered a lot of variety with sibling poses, especially to help equip you for when you have a lot of different ages with just different ranges of whether or not have multiples or just one, younger or older. Thanks again for watching. I really hope you enjoy these videos, and I really hope that you were able to learn a lot and take away some valuable information to help improve and elevate your brand and your artistry.